From a modest one-bedroom apartment in Queens, New York, it's the Great Pop Culture Debate 100th Episode Spectacular with your host, Eric Resniak. This is Jason Pintar, along with a bullshit copyright-free music clip, inviting you to join Eric and his guests, the GPCD panelists and Patreon supporters, as they look back on their best moments from the first 99 episodes and talk about all the decisions they got totally wrong. Seriously, what were you all thinking? And now, here's Eric.
Thank you very much. Editor Jim Zadzik picked an extremely enthusiastic clip of audience applause. It reminds me of that time I fell down the stairs as a child and my mother fell out of her chair laughing. Welcome to the Great Pop Culture Debate 100th Episode Spectacular, delivered in the style of The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you probably didn't think any of us were smart enough to count to 100. And who could blame you? We truly make some dumb calls, but also some great ones. You might have gotten that from the title of the show, and that's what this very special episode is all about. From the super secret Season 0 through the currently released Season 7, the Great Pop Culture Debate has covered a whopping 99 different topics. So before we move on to Season 8, we want to look back at what has come before, with our panelists and Patreon supporters sharing some of their favorite arguments, and also go over some of our all-time boner decisions. And given the number of gay men on this panel, there are plenty of boner decisions, I assure you. With that being said, let's strike up the pre-recorded band and let's go back to the beginning, just like Hillary Duff, so we can come clean on the origins of the Great Pop Culture Debate. I cannot think of a better way to start this journey down memory lane than with the Merv Griffin to my Johnny Carson. He offers sage advice, he keeps me moving forward, and he's a massive homosexual. Please welcome Great Pop Culture Debate panelist and co-producer Curtis Creekmore. Hi, Curtis.
Hey, yo. That's not him, though.
That's Ed McMahon. Nice try. Curtis, you have been involved from the very beginning of our show as a panelist at first, and you were on the first episode we ever recorded back in November 2019, the Best RuPaul's Drag Race lip sync. What do you remember from that experience?
I remember it being an absolute mess. Yeah, that first season, it really is something. It is something. I also just recently started listening to it. It's been available since then to Patreons, but it's we have grown so much in so many different ways. I'm honestly really proud of where the podcast is now.
Yeah, and so Curtis references this. When we say first season, we're not talking about season 1, which you can find the very first episode is the best Disney animated film episode. We're talking about season 0, and this is a 4-episode kind of dress rehearsal run that we did, and you can find it only if you're a Patreon subscriber. This is not a cheap attempt to get you to subscribe to Patreon. It's an expensive attempt to get you to subscribe to Patreon. No, but seriously, all 4 episodes are on there. Those 4 episodes are the previously mentioned Best Drag Race Lip Sync, the Best Madonna Single, the Best 90s Cartoon, and the Best X-Men Team Member. They're very amateurish, but there are actually some really great arguments in those episodes. I was very proud of it. The other thing that's important for people to know, if you go and you listen to those episodes, they're not called the Great Pop Culture Debate. They're called Best Thing Ever, because initially that was going to be the name of this show. And then we did the recordings for those first 2 episodes and found out that not 1, not 2, but 3 different podcasts had launched in between the time of us recording them. And we were going to release in the following summer with the name Best Thing Ever. So that's why you have Great Pop Culture Debate. Let us listen actually to a clip from one of these Season 0 Chestnut episodes.
Because you just said everything.
But it's up against Whip My Hair, which gave us a moment that broke Drag Race. The wig under a wig is so iconic. It's still used as a gift today, 7 years later.
I understand. Again, one moment does not make a lip sync.
If the rest of the lip sync was garbage, then I would agree with you. But that lip sync was fire from beginning to end. And you're like, this is amazing. They're both serving. They're serving. I don't know who's going to win. And then that fucking wig, which then led to my mom left me at a bus stop, tears, mascara. We want to talk about emotional moments on this show, to me.
Believe me, I am one person who does not want to give Roxy Andrews a win. I would walk past her on that bus stop as a child. But I can tell you this, and I will cede this. Girl can put a look together, and she can lip sync, and she is really good, really good. And both she and Alyssa I mean, Alyssa would be my number one lip sync assassin, personally speaking, in the history of RuPaul's Drag Race. And this lip sync is just, I love both of them. And it was another tough decision. This was probably one of the tougher first round decisions for me. But I think it really is so strong. It's so strong.
I feel that Roxy made it clear, and that's why we brought her here. There you go. You can listen to those now. They are crunchy bunchy. They're on our Patreon only, but they're worth it. You can check out, if you go to greatpopculturedebate.com in the bracket section, there are all the brackets for those episodes there, so you can see what we discussed. So, Curtis, what else strikes you about those early days of the podcast?
As I was listening to it, I realized we just have come to understand the formula so much better and make it make sense. It was just kind of word vomit of this versus that and who goes. And there was one point where you talked about something that had already been knocked out that someone previously had brought forward. I think it was Carissa and Kevin had voted for something that we didn't want. It was literally just a wreck. So it's just so much more polished.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I didn't remember until I was listening to the episodes today. We didn't have seeds. I rolled a 4-sided die for each grouping. And that's how I said, like, that was crazy. And I didn't even have a script for the first 4 episodes. I was just winging it. There's no intro. There's no nothing. It was wild. Let's talk about some of your favorite episodes of the show overall, Curtis. What are some of the episodes that you really are that fond of?
I really enjoy a couple of the earlier season episodes that people may not have, the best fast food franchise or restaurant episode was super fun to make because Michael and I are both on that episode together. And rather than be in 2 different places, we just stood side by side at the single microphone and recorded it together. But he tells some really hilarious stories throughout that episode.
It's hilarious. You would think fast food, whatever. It is a funny episode.
And well done. I thought we had some really good arguments. The 4 of us being like a formed, close-knit friend group. You, me, Michael, and Derek. It was just like having a conversation and it flowed so easily. My other favorite is probably the best Robin Williams movie. That one had a lot of like hilarious moments, a lot of really tender and sometimes challenging moments where we talked about his illness and what led to his death. But overall, I love Robin Williams and I love his body of work. And it was really nice to be able to celebrate his life and also kind of process his death. But go listen to that because I love that episode.
Are there some arguments that stick out in your mind as like, that was a really good debate?
I always enjoy being on any episode with Kate Kulia. She always comes prepared and is hilarious and quippy and witty. But this is a love letter to Kate. So I hope she's listening. I hope she appreciates it. And then I also really enjoy being with Joelle because I think she's one of the few people that comes at arguments from the same direction as I do, which is just very data driven. She does her homework. If you've ever been on a podcast with her, she literally creates spreadsheets full of information that anybody can use. The homework and the amount of work that she puts into it, I think really helps to round out all of her arguments. And I appreciate her too.
Agree. Shout out to Joelle Bodecker, icon. She's the person behind our Discord. She's the person behind our website. Like, she is amazing. What have we gotten wrong, Curtis? What are some of the arguments that we totally blew, in your opinion?
There's one very specific one that sticks out to me, and I think I scared some people that night. It was on the Great British Baking Show, or whatever the hell we call it.
No, it's the baking show in Britain.
Yeah. And we did an episode. It was you and me and Kara Austin and Amma Marfo. I think that's one of Amma's first episodes. And I had an ultimate winner in mind, I think, and it was the secret squirrel cake baker, but just phenomenal. Amazing cake. Both Amma and Kara chose not the squirrel cake, and I exploded. I don't think I exploded quite the way that people would expect, but it was like kind of an explosion and implosion at the same time where I got really quiet and vicious sounding. And I think I was not a joy to work with that night. So I apologize to, number one, anybody that was included in that episode, and number two, anyone that had to listen to it. But I still stand by the fact that was the wrong decision. That squirrel cake was amazing.
I can think of another instance where something like that happened, where in our best Animal Crossing character episode in season 2, you told Bob, in I think his first episode, you shut your mouth.
Fucking shut your fucking mouth. I have this odd ability to be very passionate about things that I don't necessarily care about. That one I did. I love Animal Crossing.
No, but seriously, Curtis, I just want to say honestly, I could not do the show without you, all of your help, all of your guidance. You've been there from the very start, and I honestly hope that you'll be right there to the bitter end as we are yelling and clawing at each other as this show eventually goes off into the great beyond. And thank you, Curtis. I love you, and you are essential to the great pop culture debate, so thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And I love you too. And I will be here until that rock falls on you, just like Cersei Lannister.
She had it coming. We will be right back after this. Welcome back to the Great Pop Culture Debate, episode 100 Spectacular. Moving on to season 1, please welcome my next guest. She's like Jack Hanna if he was younger, smarter, a woman, and only played with house cats. It's Great Pop Culture Debate panelist Kate Rakulia. Kate, how are you?
I'm good.
I feel so much yummier, Miss Kitty. I don't know about you. So we are going to look back at our very first official season, which was released in the summer of 2020. My God, what a time to be alive, right,
my God.
Yeah.
I mean, when you asked if I wanted to be on this, I was like, what do I remember about 2020? And honestly, one of the things I really remember is being on the Great Pop Culture Debate. So thank you for that. Thank you for the opportunity to make an actual memory in that cursed year.
Yeah, the whole cursed time frame that we were in. It's so true. So thank you. You were you a part of season 0? I think you were.
I was a Best Madonna song.
But let's go over these season 1 episodes. We did Best Disney Animated Film. You were on that one.
Yep, it was a joy.
It was a joy. Best Breakup Song, Best Netflix Original Series, Best 90s Teen Heartthrob, Best Game of Thrones Character, and I know you were on Best Breakfast Cereal.
I sure was. That has got to be that episode has a very special place in my heart. Again, it was 2020, serious moment. We were all going through it. We're still going through it, real talk. But it was just such a joy to get on, and our podcasting technology was such, we were just listening to each other. We weren't watching each other, right? So it was just people's voices in my head, alone in my apartment with my cats. And to just be read for filth by 3 lovely, lovely human beings for being an old woman who likes her cereal tasteless and crunchy. I laughed like a maniac. And I was also on, I believe also Best Crayola Crayon Color was also season 1.
It actually falls into the season 2 parameters. Before we get to that, let's listen to a clip of some of our panelists absolutely dragging Kate for her grandma tastes in breakfast cereal. First, 3/4 of us were cuckoo for 5-seed Cocoa Puffs, but Kate was of a different mind over 2-sided 4-seed Crispix. Kate, go for it.
All right. So, how do I describe a Crispix to someone who's in it? What is it? It's Cocoa Puffs. Cocoa Puffs is who it's, yeah. It's it is literally here is a grain that when you eat it, your body will continue to build itself versus here is candy. which your body likes and also needs. But I'm not going to I don't want to yuck anyone's yum, literally when it comes to yummy cereals. But I am an old woman, and I have been since the day I was born. So Crispix is, first of all, it's not a boring old square. It's not a boring old sphere. It's, what is it, a trapezoid? I don't understand. It's a different...
A hexagon?
It's a rhombus of deliciousness. And instead of holes, it has those little slits, so it's nice and crunchy. It has staying power, the Crispix. And I know I'm going to lose this one, but Crispix, I see you and I love you.
The other 2 episodes that were kind of falling into the part 1 or season 1 elements were Best Struttin' That Ass Song and Best Steel Magnolias Quote. That was technically the end of season 1. Kate, from your perspective, what are your favorite moments from season 1 besides Breakfast Cereal? Were there others? You were in Disney Animated.
I was in Disney Animated, and I gotta say, part of the joy of Disney Animated, where I was like, oh, Eric, I love Eric. Let's see how this goes. And I was like, I know a lot about Disney movies, and I am very passionate about Disney movies, and I am going to push Fantasia as far as I can fucking push it. And you know what? I feel so good about that. And I don't think other people agree, but that's okay. They're entitled to their wrong opinion.
Okay, I am so glad that you said that, because you are right. It is actually on our list of our wrong calls in Great Pop Culture Debate history. Fantasia making the Final Four in Disney animated is wild.
No regrets.
It was absolutely as a result of Kate Reculia and her goddamn compelling arguments that pushed it past.
You can't see me, but my arms are up in triumph.
You still to this day believe that Fantasia should have gone past Toy Story for that Final Four.
Absolutely. You don't get Toy Story until you have Fantasia. And like, look, I love Toy Story. Look, I'm Woody. Howdy, howdy, howdy. But like, Fantasia is a work of art that reminds me of another Disney, like, that is existing in some other universe somewhere. And not to say that I don't respect and enjoy many things about current Disney, but Fantasia is like from a different time, from a different idea of animation. The animation is incredible. And also just like Night on Bald Mountain. Do you want to live in a world where that doesn't exist? No, you don't. You don't.
To be frank, living in the 2020s, I'm not entirely sure that we aren't living in Bald Mountain.
It's true. It's true. Sheridan Borg is here.
He's calling down the spirits of the damned. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Would it be an episode of the Great Pop Culture Debate if Kate did not start singing?
It's true.
And it's part of why we love you. I believe you are, if not our most featured panelist, you are definitely among our top 3 most featured panelists. And most of our top rated episodes are Kate Reculia joints. And so
I mean, causation is not correlation. Wait, is correlate? I've messed that up. I'm not saying it's not because of me, but I'm not saying it. Not that.
It's not because of me.
There it is.
I always say that modesty is outmoded in a post-Kardashian society. And I just want to say on behalf of myself, on the behalf of the producers and the listeners of the show, thank you, Kate, for all of your amazing contributions. We are so delighted and so lucky to have you. And I look forward to so many more seasons working with you.
Thank you so much. I truly thank you, and thank everyone who has been a part of this. I feel like I have made real friends through the podcast. What is it? The real podcast are the friends we made along the way. But truly, God, it's a dark AF time, and this has been a source of joy and fun and connection and celebration. And thank you for bringing us all together, Eric. I'm making a heart with my hands.
Oh, and the last point that I will make as we bid adieu to season 1 is, Kate, you were completely wrong. Fantasia should not have made Final Four over Toy Story.
No, that is not correct. And I will go down with the ship.
Thank you, Kate. Love you much. And we will be right back after these messages.
XOXO.
Welcome back. Our next guest is a stand-up comedian who, like Joan Rivers before her, is way too talented to be wasting her time on our bullshit show. Please welcome Amma Marfo. Hi, Amma.
Hi, Eric. Thank you so much for having me, and what a lovely compliment.
It's so true. So, Amma, you and I met in Boston probably 5-6 years ago.
Something like that, yeah.
Yep, playing on a 30 Rock trivia team. I cannot remember the name that we selected for the team.
So I couldn't remember the name we selected, but I do remember when we were first trying to name the team, someone mentioned we should be the rural jurors. And I said, there's no way we'll be the only team to pick rural jurors. And sure enough, like a week before that trivia, they were like, there are over 90 teams that pick rural jurors, pick something else. So I felt very vindicated in that. And maybe the first of many vindicated decisions you've seen me make, Eric.
Absolutely true. So on that front, you came on to our little podcast beginning in season 2, I believe. Mm-hmm. And amazingly, you have kept coming back, even as repeatedly leave you on these islands. Why do you keep coming back?
I'm not an argumentative person, so a lot of times I'm really mystified as to why I keep coming back. But at the end of the day, there's just something about having strong opinions about pop culture, which I do, and getting to share those opinions with people who appreciate them, even if I don't end up, quote unquote, winning the argument. Although sometimes I do, and it's immensely rewarding. But yeah, I spend a lot of my time alone in my principles, to paraphrase that thing you do.
But I cannot tell you the number of times that people have been like, you need to have on more episodes because she knows exactly what she's talking about. And also she's putting you fools to shame. So it is respected. Let's just say that.
That makes me feel so good just to be heard for my normally not offbeat per se. I think they fit within the realm of what we're doing, but I'm alone in my arguments a lot. So if someone agrees with me, I'll take it. And yeah, despite losing so often, I will keep coming back for as long as you'll have me.
We will always have you. We're delighted. So let's take a look at what we covered in season 2, which ran from fall 2020 to early 2021. That was a really fun time, by the way.
Yes.
What a great time. So we actually had like 18 episodes. We had Best Sitcom Theme Song, which I think was your first.
That was my first. And yeah, that's a topic that I have a lot of feelings about and ordinarily don't get to talk to people about it because it's not a conversation most people have. So you really approached me and were like, this is the one that you get to do. And I was like, I could not be more qualified. Can't wait to do it.
It was great. It was such a fun episode. We had Best Picture Oscar winner, the opposite of fun episode, but a good episode. Best Animal Crossing character, one Best Fast Food Franchise, Best Song of 1999. Were you on that one or no?
I was not on Best Song of 1999. I was on Best Film of 1999, which came later.
It did, yes. Best TV Game Show, Best 2000 Sitcom, which I believe you were on.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Best Movie Monster, Best Halloween Candy, Best Great British Bake Off, Bake. Yep, that's you were on that one. Best Contemporary Holiday Pop Song, Best Holiday TV Special. The first 3 best ofs, you were on at least one of them, TV, I think?
I usually do Best of TV because that's the area I'm most passionate about.
Yep, so we did music, TV, film, Best Final Fantasy Game, Best Crayola Crayon Color, the wildest episode we have ever done. It's actually really fun. And then gayest music video. So I will say that season 2, I'm being completely honest with our listeners, went off the rails. We were all stuck inside because of the pandemic. We had nothing to do. And so I was like, let's just record a bunch more episodes. And while there are amazing episodes in there, the ones that you did were fantastic. 2 of my least favorite episodes in the history of this podcast come out of season 2, and they're entirely my fault. That's Best Movie Monster and Gayest Music Video. And yes, let's say someone thought he was a little more clever than he was with Best Movie Monster and broadened the definition of movie monster so broadly that it was pointless. Like, we have Mommy Dearest, we have Joan Crawford in the mix, along with like the Queen Alien Xenomorph. Like, it just didn't even make sense.
Yeah, at times a boundary is good for creativity, I find. And absent boundaries, it can get really, really difficult to compare things against each other, which is what this show is all about. So
correct. Yes. And that was exactly the same downfall for Gayest Music Video, which when I initially pitched it, I was like, this is going to be great. It's going to be sassy and sexy and and instead it turned into a Final Four battle with like the most depressing, like trans trauma video.
No.
And I'm like, what is happening here? It was completely my fault. I was the one who was just like, pick whatever gay music video you want. But it was, again, it was a great learning. As you just pointed out, boundaries are important for creativity and we learn lessons, right? So with that being said, Amma, what are some of your favorite episodes of the podcast, whether they're from season 2, whether you've been on them or not?
I mean, I really liked sitcom theme songs. Like, it was just so much fun to get to do. And again, it's a topic I really like. I think I've shown myself over the years to be fairly flexible in terms of things, and I don't hold grudges or opinions too tightly. But I do remember the British Bake Off Bake as being the one time where I recall, in my head it was yelling, but I'm Canadian, so it might have been very polite, yelling at Curtis, I will not be moved about like a semifinal level decision. And I stand by that decision. I bring it up all the time. Yep. I was right. Like, I was right.
What are some of the arguments that we've gotten wrong, Amma?
I don't know that I would say it was wrong necessarily, but I definitely know there were things that maybe got a little further along than I genuinely expected them to. I remember there being a very fiery discussion during the 2000 sitcom one about Will and Grace, which, if anything, was kind of the opposite of the Bake Off one in the sense that I was like, I don't have nearly as strong of an attachment to this decision as others who are making arguments.
When Will and Grace was good, it was very, very good. And when it was bad, it was awful.
Yep.
And I just don't know, even as I'm sitting here saying this, if the years we're talking about ever hit the very good. I'd have to go back and find out when the Madonna episodes were.
That's during these years. The only really great episode there's two. My favorite episode, I think, during this year is where these seasons of Will and Grace is where Grace meets Leo's ex, played by Mira Sorvino. That is truly a great episode.
Last Ex to Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's a great episode. Other than that, I really struggled with the last seasons of Will and Grace. I thought it was downright awful. Like the Janet Jackson, Jennifer Lopez stuff was so bad. They became caricatures in a way that was really unfortunate. And like, I don't know. I love Karen and Jack. They're still great, but it just lost me in many ways.
How absolutely dare you people?
I was waiting.
Oh my God, my friggin' hair is on fire. Will and Grace was never bad. Well, no, wait. No, wait.
Delusional. Take the Xanax.
Okay,
Sorry,
the original.
Yeah, that was one that I remember there being some pretty significant surprises. Like, I know the conversation around 30 Rock got really interesting in a way I didn't expect. Friends the same way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always interesting to kind of see how I think an argument will go, and then getting into it with other people, just seeing who really digs their heels in and who is really actually like, you know what? I don't care enough to worry about it. And it always kind of surprises me where that falls.
Yeah, it's same to me. I have no idea where it's going to go. I will say, speaking of Friends, John Boudreau, longtime Patreon supporter of the podcast, has a very strong opinion about anytime we talk about Friends, he thinks they go out too early, but he especially thought the Friends theme song went out too early in our best sitcom theme song discussion.
And
John,
we knew that was going to happen. Like, as we were making that decision, we're like, this is not going to go well.
This is one of those ones where, for whatever reason, Friends and the group of people we have on this podcast just do not agree. Were there any other bad calls that you can think of? Not just season 2, any season where you're just like, what's going on?
I mean, even in cases where I don't get what I want, I don't know that I can think of any genuinely bad calls. I mean, I think when we make calls, they're justified. Although I have revisited my thoughts on the best Muppet verdict in the sense that we split it.
Yep.
And honestly, now that I think about it, I would not want to have the debate, but I do think that we would need to force the argument and pick one. Unless, like, if it was a Statler-Waldorf type situation, like they come together.
Yep.
But the two that we picked don't necessarily. I think there is a way to pick one or the other, and we didn't. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, if forced to make that choice, what would we have picked?
We punked out on it, and that's a great place to leave it because that is a season 3 episode, and we are going to talk about that next. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast. We love having you around. We will get you as much as we can. You are amazing, and we're so grateful to you.
Thank you so much for indulging my deep, too deep love of television and letting me talk my opinions out with other folks who are like-minded.
Absolutely. We are all nerds. So thank you so much. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Great Pop Culture Debate, episode 100 Spectacular. Our next guest is the Ed McMahon to my Johnny Carson, and he's standing outside your door right now with that giant check from Publishers Clearinghouse. Please welcome Bob Erlenbach.
Heyo. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So, Bob, I believe that you came onto the podcast toward the end of season 1 with the best Steel Magnolias quote episode, correct?
You are correct, sir.
Yes. But
That's
Bob
my
and
best Ed McMahon that I have for you.
it's pretty good. I'll take it. Bob and I have been friends probably longer than anybody else on this here podcast, going back to, I think, 9th grade. Is that accurate?
Sure. Known each other forever, though. Forever,
yes. So it's been lovely to get to work on this project together. And over the time, he's actually become a co-producer of the show, not just a panelist. and he's doing an amazing job behind the scenes. You guys don't even know the amount of work that he puts into it. But let's go over the episodes in season 3, which covered 8 episodes in the spring of 2021. Best Clue quote, that's the movie Clue. Best one-hit wonder of the 70s and 80s. Best movie musical, which you were on, Bob?
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
That's right. Best Muppet, Best Drag Race Runway from seasons 1 through 6, Best Ben & Jerry's flavor, Best TV Mom, and Best Avenger. What are some of your favorite episodes of the podcast, whether it's from season 3 or not?
Oh, I really do love that Clue quote one. That was the first one that we started doing the GPCD players, where we started acting out the lines.
Next up, it's the definition of a butler versus an iconic confession. And I will start as Colonel Mustard. Is this place for you?
Oh, indeed, no, sir. I'm merely a humble butler.
And what exactly do you do?
I bottle, sir.
There you go. And that is up against Mrs. White and Kate. The floor is yours.
Okay, no pressure. Yes, I did it. I killed Yvette. I hated her so much. It flames on the side of my face, breathing, breathless, heaving, breaths, heaving.
Empty. Well done, Kate.
My entire life has been building to this moment. I'm so honored to share it with all of you.
I'm so proud of you. I've never been more proud of Kate Reculi, everyone.
Thank
I want
you.
you to know that. Round of applause.
I was too chicken to be on the stage in Drama Club.
And look at you now.
Look at me now.
And we carried that over into Drop Dead Gorgeous and the other ones as well. But Clueless and Drop Dead Gorgeous, those are both very hilarious episodes as well. I love any of the Disney episodes that I've been on, Disney Villain and a Disney Park Ride, because first and foremost, I'm on those with Amy Pilot. And if you all know what the Amy Pilot effect is to this podcast, there's lots of arguing, lots of fist pounding on the countertop, lots of walking off of the podcast. Those are some iconic episodes. And I think those are really well researched, really well thought out arguments throughout those episodes, because everyone on those episodes is so passionate about the subject matter.
And I mean, just so people understand a little kind of like how the sausage is made, all of our panelists requests to be on the episodes that they really want every season. And sometimes we can't get enough where they're passionate about it, and I kind of draft people. The Disney ones always have a very passionate, a very aggressive group of people who are like, oh, no, I'm on the Disney episodes. And so I keep those people on the Disney ones over and over again because you guys know it so well, and you care about this subject matter. Like, it means something to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that changed with season 3. As we mentioned in the last segment, season 2 was kind of an off season for us. I think we tried to do too much too fast. And I think season 3, the show kind of got back on track a little bit. We focused on fewer episodes with more of a break in between. And the big change we made for season 3, if you're going back now and listening to old episodes, in seasons 1 and 2, both parts of the 2-part episodes we released to the public. They were available for everybody. With season 3, we moved the part 1s to Patreon only, and the part 2s were what we put out to everyone. And I always thought at the time, are people thinking that we're doing this as a shameless plug to get people to subscribe to our Patreon? No, although you should definitely subscribe to our Patreon. But it was really because we felt that it was too much work for people to listen to 2-hour-plus episodes on a topic. It's just too much. Do you agree with that, Bob?
Yeah, I think it's one of the best moves that we ever did. And yes, I think you do need to be part of the Patreon to hear some of those round 1 arguments of a top 32 and what's going out. And there really is some incredible content in those episodes and some phenomenal arguments and conversations. And it's a little bit more ragtag as well, kind of rough around the edges for those episodes. So there's a little bit more fun sometimes, although our main episodes are super fun too. But I think it's one of the best things that we did, because I think it cuts it down. It makes it less of a commitment for the listener that doesn't subscribe to us, and they can kind of choose if they want to go to Patreon or not. But yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So looking at season 3, we had some listeners chime in with some of their favorite arguments that we made that season and some of the bad calls. Someone put forward that they thought the final 2 discussion in our best Muppet episode was one of the sweetest things they've ever heard. And I would agree. The Muppet episode was really special. You listened to it, Bob?
Yeah, absolutely. I listen to all of our episodes at least twice.
You're better than I am. What are some of the other favorite arguments that you've had on the show, Bob, that they don't have to be season 3, they don't have to be you, but some of your favorite arguments?
Yeah, I am trying to think back. There has been a few times where I have argued that I've been very proud to be able to kind of sway some voices or sway some minds on the panel. One of them being during America's Next Top Model, where you guys were all full well ready to just boot cycle 6 out in an early round, and I was just like, what is going on with you people? What, you are crazy. This cycle is the epitome to everything that is Tyra and everything that was that show, and we were ready to boot it out. It was about their best photo shoots.
Yes.
So there was that one, and then I was Hanson in Best Boy Band. I'm a Hanson stan, and I was arguing to get them removed in an early round, which goes against everything in my being, because I just didn't feel as though they, quote, fit into that full boy band mode. And so I was able to argue and really get people to kind of come over to my side. And I think it was One Direction that we moved forward in that pairing. So
that sounds right. So let's move on to bad calls that we have made for
please.
Let's do it. Mm-hmm. So why don't you start with some of your bad calls, and then I'll talk about the ones that our listeners talked about for season 3.
Well, there are a few. I'll go over a few smaller ones, but then there's a big one that we need to talk about. First of all, Sam Gamgee making it to the end of Lord of the Rings. Spoiler alert, everyone. I don't know. Gandalf, Frodo, Gollum, these are icons, and we're pushing forward Sam Gamgee to the finale. I don't understand. Pop culture car, Eric, Luke's speeder, absolutely a car. And Kit is not a car. Kit is a software program inside a car.
No, she's
absolutely.
not.
Absolutely. And then there is the most recent episode, one of our most recent episodes of Best Kaiju, which is a Patreon sponsored episode. So I'll be kind as I can.
Yep.
But we decided that Gamera, a 1 seed, probably the most iconic kaiju outside of any sort of Godzilla franchise. He is the answer to Godzilla from another studio. He is equally as iconic, just doesn't have that same broad appeal, I suppose, that Godzilla does. But going out to one of the other monsters that he destroyed in one of his films, Iris, Gamera blew his own arm off with a laser beam to be able to defeat this monster, and yet we're just going to push Iris forward. We're going to push Iris forward. A 7 seed. Kicking out a 1 seed monster in that episode. What were we doing? That's where I'll leave it. I don't want to be mean about it.
No, and I
was mean about it on the episode, I'm sure. So
no, you were great. He remains and we just released right before we recorded this. We just released that out to the public, and it reopened old wounds, much like the arm that Gamera blew off. But thank you. I will say that our listeners chimed in, and they said for season 3 that we had some bad calls in Best TV Mom, and I will say, from my perspective, that was a really hard bracket. It was a very good top 32, and even around when I was like, well, I feel gross knocking out some of these people, but Claire Huxtable not making final 4 was a bad call, and she ultimately went out up against the person who won the whole thing. But Claire Huxtable, putting aside all of the other baggage of Cosby in the show, is definitively one of the most important television moms in history. She should have been in the final 2, in my opinion. So I will name that, and we maybe got that wrong. So Bob, that is what we have to talk about for season 3. Thank you for everything you do for the show. Sure. Literally, I can't say it enough. We would be nowhere without both Bob and Curtis behind the scenes. I can't do it on my own. So thank you. You're amazing. And if I don't say it enough, it's how much I appreciate you.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for letting me be part of this project.
Of course. We will be right back after these messages. I like to compare our next guest to Bob Hope because he's been helping raising money for our little show to continue for years now. To help talk about season 4, please give a warm welcome to Steve Nikoloff, one of our very first top-tier Patreon supporters. Welcome, Steve.
Hi, Eric.
Thank you for joining us. So I always am fascinated by this. How did you actually find out about Great Pop Culture Debate?
So I was trying to think about that. I really was just browsing. At the time, I was using a platform other than the Apple platform. And so it gave me a lot of suggestions. And it popped up in my suggested for you. And I saw a few of the episodes. And the very first episode I listened to was the Best Disney Villains episode. And I was like, these are my people. I felt like I was with my friends. I was laughing like I was with my friends. And so I just subscribed and started listening and actually, went back and listened to, I think, the couple episodes that I hadn't listened to at that point in time. And, and then you guys started the Patreon, and that was a no-brainer for me. I was just like, I really need to support these guys. They're doing the work of the Lord. It has been my honest pleasure to be just a little part of that.
Well, you are awesome, and thank you so much. We are sincerely so grateful for all of your support. Season 4 was actually the first time that we had Patreon-sponsored episodes on the show. So let's take a look at what we covered for that season, which ran fall of 2021 to early 2022, over 15 episodes. But these season 4 episodes are Best Disney Villain, Best Disco Song, Best Tony-winning Musical, Best Karaoke Song, Best Star Wars Character, Best Pizza Topping, Best TV Series Canceled Too Soon, Best Tim Burton Film, Best Real Housewives Tagline, Best Holiday Movie, Best Classic Holiday Song, our 2021 Best Ofs, which included music, TV, film, Best Phil Collins Song, which is a little bit of inside baseball, remains our most listened to episode to date, and then your first Patreon-sponsored episode, Best Emmy winner for Best Drama. Were you nervous coming on for your Patreon episode?
Yes and no, a little bit, just because, I listened to you guys and I kind of, when I say looked up to you, I was like, oh, these guys really know what they're talking about. So I wanted to make sure I was on my A game. Speaking and all of that doesn't really make me nervous. Yeah. But I just wanted to make sure that I was as researched as you guys were.
And you did. You killed it. You killed it on your second one, which was Best Actress winner. And then we're actually working on your next one right now. Do you want to talk about the topic?
Yeah, we have done a lot of best moms and best dads, but I was like, who's the best TV family? I mean, we've got so many families, both animated and real life, and I already have some ideas in my head about who I think that should be, but we'll see what the listeners want in the bracket, because I know you put that poll out, and not to plug it, but go out and vote on that poll, because I can't wait to see who you guys think is the best TV family.
You said not to plug it. I'm 100% going to plug it. As you listen to this episode right now, the Best TV Family poll is up on our website, greatpopculturedebate.com. And I don't think people are aware, like literally the votes on those polls is what determines what ends up on the bracket. So it is a highly interactive show. Like your votes determine what we talk about, and then you can play along with it at home with the bracket. We've discussed that earlier in this episode, but please go vote on that Best TV Family. We've got like a dozen or more polls. Looking back at season 4, one of the other notable aspects I wanted to bring up was this was our final food-related topic with Best Pizza Topping. I would point out that half of the panel was stoned while we were recording it. It is a great episode. It's actually super fun, and it's where we got the pepperoni argument kind of thing from. But one of the things we realized as we were going on was this is called the Great Pop Culture Debate, and food is not really pop culture. And so that's when we kind of sunset those. That being said, Steve, what are some of your favorite arguments or episodes from the show in its history? It doesn't matter if it's season 4 or whatever. Just some of the ones that really stick out to you.
Well, I think the two that stick out to me the most are actually two that you made me laugh really hard on. And I'm not just picking you out. Look, I'm a big movie and TV buff, so I loved the Best Picture. I loved doing Best Actress. I love the Emmy comedy, and we did the Emmy drama series, and so those are ones that, like, academically I find fun arguments. I really enjoy them. But the best two arguments, I'm not gonna lie, it just happens to be you, was the Ursula argument for the Little Mermaid, that she had a contract and her daddy came in and broke it for her. Yep. And then the other one is your Emperor Palpatine argument.
I have a great argument here. Do you want me to go first?
Yes, please go first, because I was trying to put together my thoughts on this, and I really need to know what's going on in that twisted brain of yours.
Oh, okay, well, let me take you on my journey. So here's my actual core argument. Darth Sidious / Emperor Palpatine is the actual main character of this entire saga. He is if not in all 9 movies. He's in 7 out of the 9. And he's the person who's actually pulling the strings in the other 2. He has a plan and it worked. Like, how often in any type of fiction does the bad guy not only win, but stays winning for decades in the property? Like, that dude destroyed planets. He built not 1, but 2 gigantic Star Destroyers and nobody stopped him. And
Wait, are we talking about Palpatine or Mitch McConnell? I got lost.
Same difference.
You're making the most depressing, persuasive argument.
Exactly. But
don't listen to him. Don't listen to him.
And he did it all on his own. Look at the people he had working for him. He had incompetent boobs. He had, every time he tried to delegate something, they fucked it up. But he still stayed in power. And then even when he got deposed, that motherfucker came back and he was about to win if we had not had some wide-waisted emo kid decide to turn on a dime and be good because mommy told him so.
Against his own granddaughter. It's his own granddaughter who was his eventual downfall. I see that as that's tragedy.
It is tragedy, but ultimately he's the one who actually brings balance to the Force. Spoilers.
You're like, he had a plan and he executed it. Just all of that. It just made me laugh so hard. And I think I brought it up in the episode that I did where I'm like, you're making your Palpatine argument again. They made me laugh, and so they're my favorites, but that doesn't mean there aren't other great ones. I think we remember the ones that make us laugh really hard.
What are some of the calls that we've gotten wrong, in your opinion, Steve?
I don't have a lot that I think are wrong, because I think that we all have our own thing. But at the same point in time, I really feel like Cersei Lannister should have been the best Game of Thrones character.
Yes.
There's no question in my mind about that. Yeah. Over all 8 seasons, I just think she was giving us everything I wanted. So I like the heroes, but I'm also a person who tends to like the villains in a movie more than the heroes sometimes. And I just thought she was giving us everything.
Yep.
I also drink as much wine as she does, so I was really relating to her over the course of Game of Thrones.
It's heart healthy, Steve. It's fine. Yeah.
The other one I kind of maybe showed my hand a little bit is I think Linda Belcher is the best TV mom. I think that the way that she handles her kids over the course of the seasons, and she really does support all of them in a way that each of them with their own quirks and their own foibles, she's always there for them for whatever they need. But wrong or right, I really think the best part of the great pop culture debate is the journey, not the destination.
Yep.
Is that I find myself sometimes more interested in round 1 and 2 than I am in 3 and 4. And not that they're not great, but at the same point in time, the fervor at rounds 1 and 2 can get much more intense, where I think by the time we get to 8, 4, maybe even 2, there seems to be a little more consensus.
Yeah, and I so agree with that. And I don't know if we've made the point on it this episode yet, but I know that round 1s are behind a paywall with Patreon, and I swear to God, I'm not just trying to get people to become Patreon subscribers, but you should become a Patreon subscriber. But the arguments in round 1 are often funnier and more filled with joie de vivre than some of the subsequent arguments, because people haven't been beaten up, and people they are really speaking from their heart in round 1. It's hilarious. It's very passionate. And we've gotten some really killer arguments that people have never heard because they're not Patreon subscribers.
Well, and if I can say, that was what made me become a Patreon subscriber, is there was a few episodes where you guys on the regular feed only did the top 16. And I'm not saying only, but then I heard people say, oh, we talked about this in round 1. And I was like, and I know that I'm sure as the host, that's you die a little bit on the inside when you hear that. That is also what made me sign up for it, is I was like, well, I need to hear that argument. How this made this to 16 over the one that I think probably should be here. How did that lose?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So I do want to add in some of the other calls that people said we got wrong in season 4. The best disco song should have gone to I Will Survive, according to one of our listeners. But one of our listeners said, no, it has to be I Will Survive. Michael Schwartz, our panelist, our friend, was dismayed and continues to have not given up on the fact that A Christmas Story getting booted in round 1 of Best Holiday Movie is a travesty. Our own Patreon sponsor, producer for the Phil Collins episode, Chad Resniak, disagrees with the winner of that episode. He thought it was a bad call. He was very surly about it, but as I said, it's our most popular episode by a mile, so who knows. Steve, thank you very much again for joining us for this episode, but more than anything, we so appreciate all of your support, and we couldn't do this show without the support of our Patreon, so we're always grateful. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I'm happy to do it, and I can't wait for to talk about families.
That's right. We're recording it soon, so look for that in season 9. Between a jovial wit, a love of ascots, and a lifelong commitment to sodomy, our next guest is the Great Pop Culture Debates version of Charles Nelson Riley. Please welcome Johnny Minogue.
Hi, I'm here with Brett Summers. Well, I guess my liver is actually Brett Summers, so that's what I can say about that. But anyway, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, guys.
Welcome, Johnny. We're so delighted to have you. So, Johnny, you and I first met, I think it was close to a decade ago, with your gig as the trivia master at Club Cafe in Boston. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah. So that's where we first met Tuesday night. Can't remember even what format it was at the time.
It was Geeks Who Drink. That was our drug of choice back. And this is a little inside baseball. Most of the people that are panelists on the Great Pop Culture Debate started as a Boston trivia team called Resting Bitch Face. So that was kind of the impetus of it. So then after that, we started the show. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you actually reached out to us about, you're like, hey, I'd like to become a panelist on this.
Absolutely, yeah. So you and I were still connected even long after you stopped coming to trivia. I think you were the one team that actually never came back. In any event, I still was following you on social media, and I saw that you were doing this really cool podcast that was around pop culture, and I go, if I can do anything, it's talk a lot of shit about useless stuff in pop culture. That is my bag. And I think it was for season 4, you had already recorded everything, but it's like, listen, let's get you started for season 5, and I was raring to go.
Now, one of the things that you actually did right before we started recording season 5 was we did a kind of pilot version of the Great Pop Culture Debate live in the fall of 2021, and you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the topic was Best Pop Music Diva, and you were in it. You were grabbing that mic and you were making your case.
You know, somebody's got to do it, because I remember that event. It was a lot of fun. And I think a lot of people didn't know exactly what it was going to be about. I would notice that people would be a little bit hesitant to pick it up. I'm like, listen, if no one's going to start talking, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and I will say that people were a little bit shy at first, but by the end, the room was very engaged. If my memory is, it was Madonna versus Gaga as the final 2. And it was people literally leaping off of the tables and grabbing for the microphone. And that's exactly what we were looking for. We do want to bring these back. So if you're listening, now that we are no longer all masking and we don't have the potential of possibly exposing someone to a life-ending disease, we 100% want to bring back Great Pop Culture Debate live. And if you're listening and you want to have it in a town near you, slide into our DMs. It is on our vision board for 2024 and beyond. Johnny, you are very active in some things that I'm not sure that the listeners of this episode are aware of. The first is our Discord. We have a Great Pop Culture Debate Discord. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So if you don't know what Discord is, it is a forum where you can be a part of. I'm a part of 3 different Discord groups, and the Great Pop Culture Debate has a bevy of topics regarding different types of TV shows, music, what's happening in the world. Also, where you as a panelist can put something into the Weekly Culture Club that goes up on Twitter and other social media.
All of that to say, there are tons of great channels. I think we currently have it at the $10 or more. If you're a subscriber at the $5 level and you really want to be in the Discord, let me know, because listen, I'm open to it. You also mentioned, Johnny, Culture Club, which is something we've been doing for like 2.5 years. If you're not following our social media, you're really missing out, specifically Twitter and Mastodon. Our panelists, our Patreon supporters tell us what they're in love with in pop culture this week, and we just share it. It's about basically a pop culture show and tell. And Johnny, you've been putting stuff out there for quite some time. You've gotten some of the actual celebrities to reshare some of your Culture Club posts. So let's talk about season 5, Johnny. So This ran the spring and summer of 2022, is 12 episodes. The topics we included were Best Clueless Quote, Best Boy Band, Best HBO Original Series, Best Cover Song, Best Robin Williams Film, Best 80s Soundtrack, Best 90s Sitcom, Hottest TV Dad, Best Star Trek Crew Member, Best Gay Icon, Best Survivor Cast, Best Lord of the Rings / Hobbit Character. So Johnny, what have been some of your favorite episodes of the show?
Well, I'm biased because the best cover song was the one I was on. I'm really big into the music ones. I think one of my favorite ones was I think the best Phil Collins song, because it was a lot of your family bickering about Phil Collins songs, and I really enjoyed that. And you have to remember, we also had to remember, okay, which one was Genesis and which one was Phil Collins, because shit, you couldn't tell the difference half the time in the 80s. It was all the same. I think the best Clueless quote from season 5, I so wanted to be on that one, but I understand that's a very popular one that it really, and honestly, they made the right call. And so and I actually think my favorite one to do was not even in season 5. It was best Snatch Game performance, because we got to do our own impersonations as well, to be our own little mini Snatch Game, without copyrights being infringed.
Yes. No. So speaking of good calls, we had a couple of our listeners chime in with some calls from season 5 that they were particularly happy with. The final 4 arguments in the best boy band episode are legendarily fire. It's Backstreet Boys versus NSYNC. And longtime listeners of this show will know Bob and I have been friends for over 20 years. I've been friends with Kara Austin for probably 15. Friendships nearly ended because the NSYNC songs are better than the Backstreet Boys songs. They are. Bye, bye, bye. Way better.
I think more Backstreet Boys songs are better than NSYNC songs.
Backstreet Boys...
When you get to some of the deep cuts on the NSYNC, the ones that don't make the singles, they are dog shit. But there are still some good. That's true. There are still some good bops in the non-single BSB songs.
It's funny that
I can listen to all of Millennium from beginning to end and never have to skip a song. I can't say the same for No Strings Attached.
For me, the Backstreet Boys, even their greatest hits, with the exception of Everybody, are these mid-tempo, it's elevator music. Honestly, whereas NSYNC has those are bops. Those are songs that are well produced, well crafted, get me going. I find them exciting. Their videos are way better. It's not even a competition. Everybody being the exception again. The rest of the Backstreet Boys videos are them in very long, oversized white shirts, standing on an airport, or and NSYNC is out there in fucking doll boxes and they're doing the damn thing. It's
so that's one video, but we also have the Everybody video where they're monsters in a haunted mansion, and Larger Than Life where they're on spacecraft.
Tearing Up My Heart is not a good music video.
Okay, but it's a great song.
Sure, but so is As Long As You Love Me and I Want It That Way, and Everybody, Larger Than Life, All I Have to Give, Shape of My Heart, Show Me the Meaning of Being Lonely, Quit Playing Games with My Heart.
Shape of My Heart. Oh, Bob, please.
Now you're getting personal.
I was going to say, this topic has the potential to destroy a 30-year friendship. That's how intense those debates were. It was the final 4 matchups, but people were furious. Bob was angry at me. I was angry at Bob. I was angry at Kara. Kara's angry at Amy. They were great, and they were so much fun. And then you just mentioned it, the best Clueless quote. Carissa Kloss actually had to fight to get the ultimate winner past round 1, because I was ready to take it out, and she came in with this ferocious argument, and because of her, it ended up winning the whole episode. So check those out. Johnny, what calls did we get wrong?
Oh, best cover song. I will go down with that. That was my first actual bracket, because the first one I recorded was a best of.
Yep.
But yeah, that one I was steaming about that. I lost a lot of the matchups in that. Some of them I was like, oh, that's okay. And then at the very end, I made a strategic move. I wanted Respect by Aretha Franklin to be the #1 best cover song. And I was trying to throw it to another song, and I think it was Proud Mary. And I was trying to figure out the one that was going to be easy to take down, and I screwed it up. I was so grumpy I'm still a little grumpy about Aretha Franklin on that one.
That was the one that people mentioned from this season, but I'm glad that you keep coming back. You're always a joy to have. I love the vigor that you bring to the debates and your attitude. You're always so wonderful to have on. So thank you, Johnny. I'm so glad you reached out, and it is such a delight to record with you. And make sure to check out Johnny every Tuesday at Club Cafe in Boston. They also help support this podcast. So with that, we will be right back. Please welcome our next guest who may not be able to sing, but she remains the wind beneath my wings. Please welcome our answer to Bette Midler, the iconic Carissa Kloss. Hello, Carissa.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I was just reflecting on the fact, much like Barbara Hershey, that I've known you for about 10 years now. It's been almost a decade.
That's bananas.
It is bananas. We met in Boston on our very first night. We went to Fajitas and Ritas, got properly buzzed, and then went to karaoke where you and Kate Rakulia were the ladies of the B-52s to my Fred Schneider as we serenaded the room to Love Shack, correct?
Correct. Although you're glossing over the terrible thing that happened before that, which was you and I duetting on what was it?
It was
Salt and
Shoop.
Pepper.
It was Shoop.
Salt and Pepper. It was my worst karaoke showing of all time because I know that song front to back, but the problem was we were properly buzzed on pitcher margaritas and the screen was highlighting a paragraph at a time and I got completely lost in those lyrics.
Girls, what's my weakness? Terrible teleprompters. That's the answer.
Okay.
Right? But I think that we came first in friendship, and here we are 10 years later. And
here we are.
What an adventure. So we're going to talk a little bit about season 6, which released in the fall of 2022 through to early 2023. And it had a whopping 19 episodes. Can you believe that? 19.
That is, I don't remember seeing Bianca Del Rio that many times.
So let's look at what we covered. We did Best One Hit Wonder of the 90s, 2000s. Were you on that episode, Carissa?
I don't think I was. I think I did earlier. I think I did 80s.
The 70s, 80s ones.
70s, 80s, yeah.
We did Best. That's right. Best Golden Girls quote, Best Pop Culture Car, which you absolutely were on.
Yes, I was. Justice for the Wienermobile.
Exactly. Best TV series finale, which I think you were on.
Definitely.
Best 80s children's film, Best Pop Culture Witch, Best Marvel Villain, Best Snatch Game Performance, I believe you were on.
I don't think I was actually, but I loved that episode.
Yeah.
The Alaska Supremacy, you know.
It was that. Best 90s rom-com and Best Barbra Streisand song. Season 6 is where we started officially our Divas kind of series where we capture the music of a particular female music artist, and we want to just kind of raise them up and give them up. We also wrapped up the year with some additional one-offs: Best Holiday Episode or TV Show, Best of 2022 Books, 22 TV, 22 Movie, 22 Music. Now, you've been on a bunch of our best ofs, correct?
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be on the best of film episodes the last couple of years, and it is honestly my favorite thing to record, and I'm so happy that we get to do it continuously. Looking forward to it really pushes me to see as many of the things as I can for the year and to really think about what did I like the best, what are things that I liked that people maybe haven't seen, and how to bring those to the fore. Because everybody's going to know about Barbie. But there's some other kind of sleeper things that I saw this year that were really fantastic that I'm already thinking about, can I bring those to the best ofs?
Yeah, and that's one of the things I was going to say is if people haven't listened to them, we have them for, I think, 21, 22, maybe 20. I'll have to check.
I think we did 2020.
Yeah. And yes, there are some Captain Obvious answers in there, but there's so much good stuff in there that I guarantee you people have never heard about, and it's all quality. So if you have not checked those out, please go back into our archives. If you go onto the website, greatpopculturedebate.com, under episodes, you will find the best of collection, and they're literally all right there, all of them for every year, just waiting for you. So the other parts of season 6 that kind of spilled over into 2023, we had some Patreon sponsored episodes. Best Song of 1985, Best Actress Oscar winner. Were you in that one?
I certainly was. That was an amazing episode to research for sure.
So much fun. Best Top Model Photo Shoot and Best Children's Board Game. So that's all of season 6. Carissa, what are some of your favorite episodes of the podcast, regardless if it's season 6 or not?
Well, even just you mentioning Best Top Model Shoot was real fun because Bob got real salty on that episode. And I really loved, I like the ones where we bring in some of our younger listeners to discuss their perspective. So Children's Board Game, and then also was it some kind of Pokemon. First generation. Yes. I am not a Pokemon person, but that episode delighted and entertained me like no other.
I am so glad to hear you say that. So what are some of the favorite arguments that you've heard on the show or that you yourself have made?
I mean, I think one of the things that I'm most proud of is my pushing forward of the Godfather movies in our best pictures. I think I was able to carry them pretty far, and I would argue they did not go far enough, but I felt pretty good about it. And I mean, it's material that I know front to back, so was able to speak on it very well.
Oh, some of our listeners chimed in with some of their favorite season 6 arguments. One person called out Derek Makita's memory argument on the best Barbara Streisand episode. If you have not listened to it, it made me actually full on belly laugh. And I have a large belly, so that's significant. And it was something along the lines. In fact, you know what? We're just going to take a clip of it and we're going to put it right here. I actually will agree with you that I do think it's crazy to say this because she never actually performed in the show Cats, but I actually think this is the definitive version of Memory. And you can tell me I'm crazy, but that touch me moment, never has there been another recording that comes close to getting that right as Barbara does. Derek, where are you on this?
You know, Eric, I think it's funny that you said that the Happy Days and Come On Get Happy are very close to the gay community. What is more relatable to the gay community than feeling old and abandoned in an alley, just begging to be touched?
It's true. It's true. I'm constantly saying, touch me.
I mean, come on now. So I am with Memory here.
That is possibly the best argument we've ever had on the Great Pop Culture Debate. Snaps for Derek Makita. That is great. And the other argument that got some props was Bob Erlenbach's defense of Flight of the Navigator in the best 80s children's film, which was up against E.T., I believe it was a 1 seed, and he successfully convinced that panel to flip and put forward Flight of the Navigator. What a world we live in. But speaking of bizarro choices, Carissa, what are some of the calls that we have gotten dead wrong?
I mean, there's always times that you kind of shake your fist and you wonder, but the thing that consistently happens and that I hate the most is the moving forward of Eyes Wide Shut. It's been in a couple of things, I know, but definitely in, was it Best Film of 99? And this is a point where Kevin and I will go to our graves differing on, but I hate that film. I hate it so much. And the fact that it kind of gets a little bit of a pepperoni argument, I just can't with that one.
Speaking of questionable calls, one of our listeners wanted to point out that they found that many of the calls in the Best Pop Culture Car episode from season 6, which you were a panelist on, they found them to be unexplicable. We'll put it that way. Do you have a response to that?
What cars was this person wanting to put forward? I think that episode, it's one of our kookier ones that we've ever done, but everybody there was very passionate about the subject matter. We all came very well prepared. We did a lot of research. I mean, the Mirthmobile supremacy should reign. I justice for the Wienermobile.
Justice.
I don't know. This person is entitled to their very wrong opinion.
That's right. Speaking of wrong opinions and the Pop Culture Car episode, I will take this opportunity to once more vent my spleen. Optimus Prime is a car. He is also a man, but he's a man that turns into a car. And so therefore him being bounced in round 1, lunacy. But it's fine. I'm over it. I'm clearly over it. 100% over it. But thank you, Carissa, not just for joining us now, but for everything you do with the podcast. You are an angel, and I'm so glad that we continue to be able to work on this project together.
Thank you so much again for having me. It is a shining light to be able to be a part of this project. So thanks for having me.
Mwah. Welcome back to the Great Pop Culture Debate 100th episode spectacular. Like George Carlin, our final guest has some piping hot takes and loves to drag us when we're getting too up our own asses. That said, he's taking applications for you to be up his. Please welcome Kevin Dillon.
Listen, if I can hold people accountable and be up someone's ass, I'm on board.
You're living the gay dream. That's the gay agenda.
Right. Listen.
Yeah. So Kevin, you have actually been with us since the very beginning. How do you think that the show has changed in the intervening 90-something episodes, and are you surprised by the way that it's changed?
You know, I think when we started, we were like Apple. We were that ragtag, like a garage kind of vibe. Like we were just kind of having fun, vibing. We definitely got snippy. I feel like we've got maybe a little snippier, which I kind of enjoy and I love, and I think that's for the best. But I don't know. More people, more voices too, which I think has been awesome.
Yes, thoroughly needed. Oh, that's one of the things that I realized doing those first few episodes was, wow, it's a lot of white gay dudes. And so we definitely did expand. Right. That being said, let's talk about season 7. Those episodes included Best Song of 2003, Best Disney Theme Park Ride, Best 80s Cartoon, Best Girl Group, Best Film of 1999, Best Saturday Night Live Recurring Character, Best Share Song, Best Reality TV Competition, Best Gen 1 Pokemon, Best Queer Film.
Yeah, I got a little spicy on that one.
Yes, you did. Best Project Best Project Runway Design, Best Drop Dead Gorgeous Quote, Best Kaiju, and Best Super Bowl Halftime Show. It is a Patreon exclusive. It features Andrea Guerrero, Gary Jackson, and Jake Piticelli. It is such a fun episode. I can't wait for people to listen to it.
She ends the show with Take Me Higher. And how does she end the show? By being taken higher, literally out of a god dang helicopter. She's like, oh, hey, my ride's here. Like literally, oh, hey, my ride's here. And jumps into the helicopter and flies away. Like diva, iconic, legendary. We love it. I can't.
We use the term iconic. Seriously. We use the term iconic in the show constantly. You tell me a more iconic fucking thing than Diana Ross being like, bye, peasants, getting into a helicopter.
Because you know she was faking it.
Absolutely. She's like, I'm not sitting in this traffic, motherfucker. She's hanging out of it, like with straps around her wrist and just flying away. And now it's just like, nothing compares to this. Call Sinead O'Connor. One other thing I wanted to bring up for season 7 is I don't know if people are aware of the bonus content that we have up on our website that relates to this. So for season 7 on, we're doing top 10 lists that relate to the episode. So for instance, for Best Kaiju, we have a top 10 list on the best giant robots. And we also have our Song of the Week playlists that we've started, which is great extra content. They're all up on our website. Speaking of things that you love, Kevin, what are some of your favorite episodes of the show overall?
I loved Housewives tagline. I thought it was great. I love listening to an episode where I am not the expert in it. Like, I'm not a Disney gay, but I thought the theme park episode, I was like, or the ride, Disney ride, I thought that was a really good episode.
So let's talk about some of the arguments that were nominated by our listeners for season 7 that they loved. Specifically, Derek's Linda Richman in the Best Saturday Night Live episode was singled out as one that people really got into. And then let's talk about some of the stuff that people thought were questionable in season 7, some of the decisions. So I know you had thoughts on the Best 80s Cartoon episode. Many people did. A lot of people thought that was a catastrophe.
I think catastrophe is a strong word for that. I think you all came from your own 80s journey / childhood of what that looked like. So I will say I did not necessarily agree with a lot of your decisions, but I understood where you were coming from. Correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a minute. Muppet Babies won that?
Muppet Babies won it. And the number of times I've had people say to me, Muppet Babies? How did that happen?
It's a show I loved, and I would probably have had it going very far. This is where Kevin George Carlin comes out. I have to challenge you all to get out of your bubbles and what you're passionate about and think about the greater pop culture scheme of things.
The other controversial decision from season 7. Best Film of 1999, multiple people said, how did you end up at that conclusion?
I will say this. I regretted that decision after we recorded the episode. And I thought about it and I was like, nope, we made the wrong call. So for folks who disagree with us, you, I think, are ultimately the victor. You get into these debates where like the best HBO show and everyone's like, well, it's gotta be The Sopranos. And I'm like, how about we go with a left field choice? Yeah. Like, let's not go with the obvious. So for 99, the obvious is The Matrix for most people. Yes. Ultimately, would the obvious choice of The Matrix been correct? Maybe. We live in an alternate universe where we went with The Sixth Sense. I would have picked Eyes Wide Shut, but I know, again, I'm alone on that island.
We have discussed that one. Yeah. I will say this. There were the comment I got was there were so many other good answers that you could have picked. It wasn't even just like Matrix or Bust. And they're like, and you picked that one. That is part of what I love about this show is it's never, and I don't think I've said this in our 100th episode spectacular as we're wrapping up, but it was never intended to be us saying the definitive answer. I mean, that is what we're saying, but it is always meant to be the beginning of a conversation. And more than that, it's really about celebrating all of the things we're talking about, not putting one thing above them all. It's like, look at all these incredible films that existed in 1999. Let's talk about them for 55 minutes or an hour and a half. And let's just share our geekiness about it and let people know about it in case they don't. Kevin, thank you for stopping by. You are an essential ingredient to this podcast. You bring the spice, you bring the heat. And if you weren't here, it would be a bunch of people just talking and just being lovely to one another. And I'm always glad for you being there with your takes and sticking to your guns. So thank you for everything.
Absolutely.
All right. We will be right back after these messages. Welcome back. That brings us up to Season 8, which, hold on to your butts, starts dropping next week with new episodes scheduled to drop every week until the end of 2023. You can look forward to episodes such as Best Whitney Houston Song, Best Superhero Film, Best Horror Franchise, and so much more. Also, a heads up that we'll be making a slight tweak to the format going forward. As previously mentioned, we're trying to trim the episode length. To help with that, we're going to be putting out a little 5-minute primer before each episode, walking you through the brackets and the decisions that happened prior to the starting of round 2. We think this will tighten things up and give more insight into those round 1 arguments for our non-Patreon supporters, and we hope you like it. I want to thank you so much for listening. If you haven't listened to every episode, I hope you learned about some great episodes that you missed. If you've never listened to our show before, I hope you got caught up on everything we've done up until now. And if you've been listening to us all along, thank you. This episode was intended to be a celebration of the show overall, and your support has been a big part of that. An extra special thank you to our Patreon supporters, some of whom have been mentioned in this episode, and some of them have been supporting us basically since the beginning. We hope you learned a little bit more about our panelists and how this all came together, and we hope you laughed. We sure did while making it. Before I go, I want to give a huge thank you to every panelist who has ever been a part of the Great Pop Culture Debate. They give a lot of time and effort into this show, and I want to give them their props. You've heard from many of them in this episode, but to make sure everyone gets a shout out, here's your GPCD panelist roll call. Amma Marfo, Amy Pilot, Andrea Guerrero, Bob Erlenbach, Brendan Hay, Curtis Creekmore, Dan Howell, Derek Makita, Gary Jackson, Heather McLean, Jake Lewis, Jake Pitticelli, Jennifer Chen, Jim Zadzik, Joel Bodecker, Johnny Minogue, Kara Austin, Carissa Kloss, Kate Rakulia, Kevin Dillon, Matt DeTurk, Michael Barber, Michael Schwartz, and Mike Rappin. An extra special thank you to Mike Rappin, who was the fairy podfather to our show, really walking us through nature in the first several seasons. Thank you also to our regular editors, Jeffrey Perry and Jack Quate Blank, and this episode's extra special guest editor, Jim Zadzik. And one final shout out to co-producers Bob Erlenbach and Curtis Creekmore, who did a ton of work on this episode behind the scenes to make it happen. Speaking of which, if you want to listen to the full uncut audio of these interviews, some of which ran much longer than what you heard, head over to patreon.com/Great Pop Culture Debate, where we'll post the full unedited clips. And you know what? We're going to have it available to everyone, whether you're a Patreon supporter or not. We give so much that it hurts, I swear. And that is it for episode 100 of the Great Pop Culture Debate. Make sure you're subscribers to the show on your podcast platform of choice for more exclusive content and some amazing perks. Become a Patreon supporter today, and be sure to check out our website at greatpopculturedebate.com to see which polls are open for your votes and great bonus content like our top 10s and playlists. We look forward to doing another one of these for our 200th episode. Until then, we hope you have a great one, and remember, everyone is entitled to their wrong opinion. Play me out, Jim.